Would you like to learn how to create this shimmering floral card that's full of shades of blue and green and silver and is certain to warm hearts on a cold winter's day? Stay tuned to learn how. Hi friends, welcome back to the Zemstones by Walter YouTube channel. I'm Altenew Educator Walter Zemrock, and today I'm taking part in a Frosty Splendor video hop along with other Altenew educators. Altenew is sponsoring this hop and will be giving away prizes for comments left on these videos and for hopping along. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of the video for more giveaway information. Here are the products that I used in making this particular card. I started with the Altenew Festive Clusters die set, then the Hello Winter stamp set and the Hello Winter die set, the Blue Crystals glitter cardstock, the Glacier Caves Artistry by Altenew alcohol markers, the Green Valley alcohol markers, some gem sparkles, the Arctic Mountain cardstock, Winter Lake cardstock, brushed silver cardstock. My card base is an A2 sized base made out of the Arctic Mountain cardstock. I then took an eighth off of each of the sides of a piece of the brushed silver, and then another eighth off of a piece of the Winter Lake, and mounted those together. We'll also use a piece of white that is about an eighth smaller on each side than the Winter Lake cardstock. We'll start by ink blending. It's really simple ink blending using the lapis lazuli ink cubes from Altenew. Specifically, we're going to be using the Eastern Sky on the outer edges of this white card panel. And I'll go around a couple of times just to make sure that I'm getting a nice wintry blue color around the edges of the cardstock. Ink blending is really something that is quite simple and especially for a background is so relaxing to do. I start with the outer color around the edges to make sure that I then am able to build up using the next color, lighter color, which is the iceberg blue ink cube. And I blend that around and going a little further into the inside of the card, as well as blending it into the Eastern Sky on the edges of the card, to go ahead and just make this wonderful frosted blue going around the panel that will really help the panel stand out and tie into the flower that we end up creating. Once I'm satisfied with that, I take the darkest of the colors, the azurite, and I rub it around the edges of the card panel, just as a little detail to help that card panel stand out. I did my die cutting in advance to save time on the video. I die cut the word winter and the shadow, and I cut them out of pieces of the Blue Crystals glitter cardstock, and then I glued them together. I then went ahead and die cut the flower I wanted to use using the Festive Clusters die set out of some white cardstock. And then once it was cut, I used some press and seal to be able to save the inside die cut pieces of the flower because I knew I wanted to color them and then inlay them into the flower. So for coloring, I wanted to go ahead and start with coloring the leaves first, since there were fewer leaves than the flowers. And I start with using the darkest color of green, going along the bottom inside of each of the leaves. I then go in with a medium green to go ahead and add some more color and to extend it. And as you do this, you want to take your marker and do some upward brush strokes that are going to help cover some of the dark and blend that in and then extend it upwards on each of those leaves. Once that's done, I grabbed an icy lemonade marker to go ahead and just glaze over each of the leaves. By glazing, I mean that it helps to blend it together and really makes those greens pop since it's such a light yellow. I then repeat these steps for the other leaf. Once again, glazing over with the yellow to get it complete. I'm now going to color the flowers with the blue markers. Similar to how I did the leaves, I start with the darker color of blue. And for the two roses, I decided that I just wanted to use the darker blue and then a medium blue, and that I would save a lighter shade of blue for the other flower to make sure that it stands apart from the roses. Do you like coloring with markers? I find it really relaxing, and I have to say that I've become much more comfortable with it during the classes that I had taken throughout the Altenew Educator certification program. As you'll see, I just go along and I add in some accents after doing the initial coloring and add in those accents with the darker on the edges of the rose just to make sure that I'm going to have that stand out from the other flower. And I repeat that and do that again with the second rose. Then I go in with the lighter shade just to make sure that it blends together. With the roses done, I can then start in on the other flower. Let me know what your favorite flowers are to color. I'd love to hear from you. You can just comment below in the comment section. I thought that these colors of blue went really well with the theme of frosted blooms. The way that the darker goes ahead and blends into the more medium and then ultimately into the light blue on each of these flower petals is just really pretty, and it gives it the appearance of being an icy glaze over on the flower. By the way, if you're enjoying this content, why don't you go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell to go ahead and be notified of when I post new content. Here I am finishing up that flower and getting all of those pieces colored, blending them together. And as soon as that's done, we'll be all set to move on to our next step, which will be going ahead and inlaying those pieces into the flower cutout. It's now time to pick up the colored pieces and inlay them into the die cut. It's really easy to do. You just take a piece, add some glue onto the back of it, and then press it down. I find that using tweezers is really helpful here, as is the use of the press and seal. It keeps all those pieces there in place, and then you just have to pick them up and glue them in. I start by doing the leaves. There's one leaf that's now done. I continue on and do the other leaf. Then I start in on the actual flower petals. And one by one, I take each piece and glue it into place. It's actually very relaxing to do. Have you ever done a project like this? I actually quite enjoy it. Next up is stamping on our sentiment. I have it placed onto my stamping platform, and I ink it up using the Azurite ink, which I think is a nice darker blue that will stand out against that lighter blue backdrop of the card panel. I'm now able to adhere my card panel down to the card base. I use double-sided adhesive tape, putting on a pretty good amount that will make sure it stays in place. and then carefully lay it down onto the card panel to make sure that I'm getting a nice alignment and centering it. It takes a minute, but it's worth taking the time to make sure that it's centered and looks really nice. Once that's done, I decide I want to add on some glossy accents. What this is going to do is put an almost glass-like glaze over each of the leaves and flower petals. It's going to make such a nice effect, and it's just another little detail that really supports the Frosty Blooms theme. It's basically like laying glue down. You just fill in each of those little sections where there's a piece of leaf or a piece of the flower. I work my way around. If you let the glossy accents air dry, it takes about 24 hours just to let it set. But you can speed up the process by using either the low setting on your heat tool, or I just use a hair dryer. It's not as hot as the heat tool, and it really helps that glossy accent set and dry, and it cuts down on the amount of time that you have to wait for it. Almost done. With the glossy accents dry, I take a gel pen and I just go over any spots where the glossy accent may have gotten onto the frame of the flower, just to make sure that it doesn't show through. It's just a nice little attention to detail that really makes a difference. As a reminder, if you're enjoying this content, please make sure to hit subscribe and don't forget to sign up for notifications so you know when I post more. One final wipe of the card to make sure there's no glue or glossy accents that were sticking to it, and the card is done. Look at that shine. It just is beautiful, isn't it?
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.